Everyone is saying goodbye to the captain as he approaches his mission. Captain Staniforth will be the first man on Mars, and Captain Maddox will follow to set up a base for future colonizers. Staniforth asks Skinny if he is excited, and he tells him he can't wait for everything to go down like they planned. After checking that all systems are functional, the ship sets to launch. Staniforth is sure that this is a one-way mission, but he isn't going there to die, but rather to discover a new life there. The ship launches into space, leaving the inhabited Earth behind. Staniforth is aboard the boat Zephyr on his way to land on Mars. The ship is monitored by the station down in Houston, and people cheer as the boat is finally in space. Staniforth is allowed to kick off his shoes for the rest of the ride. The station still needs to run diagnostics on some life support systems they can't monitor. They want to run a test of the air circulation and water reactor, as they are the essential parts. Staniforth is mesmerized by his view from space as he can see the entire Earth in front of him. He asks for some time before the diagnostics for him to settle into his new living arrangement. He checks the reactor and has his first meal on the ship. He takes care of the plants on the ship and waters them consistently. He works out, he takes a shower. Things seem to be going smoothly for him. He is determined to achieve the mission he came for. He keeps a journal, recording his thoughts and observations, noting even the smallest changes in his environment. He listens to recordings of Earth's nature sounds during his downtime, allowing himself a brief escape into familiarity. He tests the ship's communication systems and sends routine updates to his team. He reviews the mission protocols again, making sure everything is aligned. He adjusts to the new rhythm of time and space, setting routines to keep his days structured. Occasionally, he floats to the observation window and watches the stars, finding comfort in the stillness. Each task, no matter how minor, becomes a part of his survival and his purpose. He gets daily checkups by his team, monitoring everything from his heart rate and oxygen levels to his mental well-being, ensuring that the isolation of space doesn't weigh too heavily on him and that his body remains in sync with the rhythms of life back on Earth, as they meticulously track any shifts in his physiology, observe his sleep patterns, and even analyze his voice for subtle emotional changes, small yet significant efforts to maintain a sense of normalcy in the vast unfamiliar silence that surrounds him. In the station, and even has weekly student interface meetings where students from the American Youth and Science program ask him different questions about the mission. One of the students asked him how he plans to survive the harsh climate on Mars. He tells them that they have already sent up a lot of materials and food, but one of the big challenges is water. They couldn't send enough, so Staniforth came up with a reactor that would be able to solve that problem. He invented a reactor that works on dirt by creating a process to extract the hydrogen and oxygen from the soil and recombine them, which makes H2O. He starts working on his journal while doing his daily routines, and he writes his ideas and theories about mankind's possible fresh start. He reflects on the resilience of human innovation and the power of persistence in the face of uncertainty. As he writes, he imagines future generations building homes under alien skies, drinking from systems just like the one he built. He documents the step-by-step process of the machine's activation, its minor failures and ultimate success, hoping his records will guide those who come after him. He sketches diagrams, adds footnotes, and even includes philosophical musings about humanity's place in the universe. The journal becomes more than just a log, it turns into a blueprint of hope, a personal manifesto for a new beginning beyond Earth. Skinny keeps on checking on him and giving him a weather update on Earth and Mars. Staniforth then reminisces about the day that they received the mission. He reviews people who are volunteering to join this mission and are sent in the upcoming years. The most human interaction he can get at that time is with the supply depot. That's the last stop for food and fuel before the next 20 million miles. But because of initial launch delays, he won't have much time at the space station, just enough time to load up supplies. When he gets there, he gives the man there a fruit from his ship. The man tells him he hasn't tasted anything this tasty in 4 months. When Satanforth asks what happened to his garden on the ship, he tells him that it all died in 2 weeks. Before they can proceed with their conversation, the station from Houston tells them they need to finish up quickly. Staniforth asks where the captain is, and the man introduces him, but the captain of the supply depot doesn't seem thrilled to be here. Staniforth is confused by the captain's behavior, so he asks him what is wrong. The captain tells him their experiments failed. The other guy on the mission tells him to go back and abort the mission because it's too hopeless. While they're they're arguing about the mission's success rate, the live feed of Captain Maddox's launch gets broadcast, showing that more and more people are getting sent to Mars. The man bursts into tears as he is unaware of what the future may hold and if the mission will ever be a success. Staniforth keeps on having these question and answer sessions with the students from the science facility. At this point, everything seems to be the same every day. The ship is going thousands of miles per hour, but he can't tell, and the sun comes through the window once a week. At first, he figured it was normal. Through time, the ship starts to get dirty because of plant decay in its skin. Dust begins to gather in the corners, floating in slow motion through the cabin, a constant reminder of his solitary existence. The air feels heavier, slightly more stagnant, and he begins to clean obsessively, trying to hold on to a sense of control. He checks the filtration system more often now, listening closely for unusual sounds, hoping for a distraction, anything that breaks the silence. He starts losing track of time, not sure if he slept or just closed his eyes for a while. Even the plants, once vibrant, begin to wilt, shedding leaves that crumble in his hands. His journal entries become shorter, more fragmented, and filled with questions rather than ideas. He wonders if the problem in the reactor was just a symptom of something deeper unraveling, not in the ship, but in himself. Yet he continues, fixing what he can, cleaning what he must, pushing forward through the blur of endless repetition, holding on to the hope that beyond this long drift through nothingness, there is still purpose waiting. Staniforth continues living with an unchanged routine every day. The people on the other ship have lost hope in the mission and think that the mission has failed. Staniforth thinks it's because they have a family waiting for them, and that sense of disappointment and longing is what's holding them from finishing this mission. He believes the struggle of surviving will eventually make him achieve his goals. He convinces himself that detachment is a strength, not a weakness, that without ties pulling him back, he can push forward no matter how hard it gets. He reflects on the sacrifices he's made and accepts the loneliness as part of the cost. He contacts his fellow captain from the other ship. He gets videos from his close friends and family for his birthday. He also started learning new languages to be productive during his stay here. He is persistent in keeping the plants well preserved. Staniforth loses a signal for a moment on the ship and starts panicking. He is told that they went silent because they are trying to control the malfunction situation with Maddox's ship. The ship is, of course. Staniforth insists that he can fix the malfunctioning gyroscopes. Even though Skinny continuously commanded him to stand down, Staniforth kept on trying to fix the ship's problem. Staniforth carefully instructed Maddox on what she should do to fix it and walked her through it. Skinny insists they stop whatever they are doing, but it turns out Staniforth's way worked. Staniforth continued with his routine and maintained his lifestyle. In a desperate attempt to fix the reactor, he contaminated the water. He doesn't want to ask for help from the maintenance group back at the station. He decides to lower his water intake till he can permanently fix the machine. He has to lie about the reactor being too skinny because if he finds out about it, the mission will probably get aborted. Staniforth is feeling a little anxious because now he can't even see the sun, and he has to maintain a lie about the reactor and act like everything is fine. Skinny checks up on him, and he expresses his concern about the several maintenance tasks he is conducting on the reactor, reminding him that if anything goes wrong, they have to abort the mission and send him home. Staniforth nods, giving vague reassurances, knowing deep down that the reactor is more fragile than he's letting on. The pressure of hiding the truth starts to weigh on him, but he tells himself that this is part of the sacrifice, part of the burden of being the one who refuses to give up. He keeps a calm voice during the check-ins, masking the growing uncertainty behind practiced composure. The absence of sunlight starts to distort his sense of time and space. Days feel like they bleed into one another. He replays Skinny's words in his mind, but brushes them off, clinging to the belief that he can still fix it, that aborting the mission would mean everything he's endured was for nothing. He returns to the reactor after each call, tools in hand, working carefully, silently, pushing through fatigue and self-doubt. Every wire he reconnects, every adjustment he makes feels like a stand against failure. But still, the anxiety lingers, quiet, persistent, like the cold hum of the ship around him. Skinny is still concerned about Staniforth's odd behavior towards his sudden interest in maintaining the perfectly working machines, so he advises him to just leave it be. Staniforth couldn't still with all the stress about the reactor, and he received bad news from Skinny saying he had some some bad news about Maddox. The fix he made on her ship didn't hold for long, and they had to send her back. Staniforth pauses for a moment, feeling a strange mixture of disappointment and fear wash over him. Maddox had been a symbol of hope, of resilience, someone he believed would see the mission through no matter what. The news makes the weight on his shoulders feel even heavier. He tries to process it, nodding silently, though his mind is spinning with thoughts of failure, of how close they had all come to something great, only to watch it unravel piece by piece. He returns to his station with even more urgency, as if doubling down on the machines will somehow make up for the things falling apart around him. Skinny's voice still echoes in his head, urging him to stop, to step back, but Staniforth can't. Maddox being sent back feels like a warning, one he can't afford to ignore, so he throws himself deeper into the work, checking every connection and rewriting diagnostic codes, unable to sit still while the mission trembles at the edge of collapse. Skinny wanted to make sure Staniforth remained calm and focused so that they would be able to go further with the mission, because now most of the pressure was on him to finish the mission. Staniforth is getting desperate about his water intake and starts to use up all the possible water sources he can get. He even stopped watering the plants and used up all their humidity. Desperate times call for desperate actions, but Staniforth is still trying to replicate a system that works in nature and remains hopeful. He tries to come up with new inventions that will make the water consumable again by superheating the soil and compressing it, extracting the hydrogen and the oxygen, and recombining them. He tries to recreate the way they are naturally created, even though it shows no sign of hope at first. It turns out to be a failure in the end. The machine sputters, the system glitches, and what little progress he made falls apart before his eyes. Frustration surges through him, the weight of isolation, failure, and exhaustion all crashing together. He gathers his tools again, reorders his thoughts, and reminds himself that every failure is a step closer to a solution. He pushes away the sense of futility that whispers at the back of his mind, focusing instead on the mission, on the necessity of finding a way to survive. He knows it will take more than one attempt, more than 100, and he's prepared to keep going as long as it takes. He can survive